Well, hello and welcome back once again to the Mars Mission News Network, bringing you all the latest news from Legacy Heroes Unboxed. Now, we've had a couple of little small bits of information, at least the past couple of days, ever since the last bit of news broke with the kit for Ruiner. And I've become wanting to get a little bit more stuff before I actually started making another news video, because some of the stuff was a little bit smaller. I mean, it'd be like a 1 minute long kind of video, so I want to wait till we got a little bit more. But I did get some more information today, which is worth making another news video on. So without further ado, we'll go into some of the smaller stuff that I wanted to cover. I actually forgot to put this one in the last news video. I think I actually got it around the time when I did that one. But I simply asked him, we're having a hard time trying to track down the hint in your new profile picture. Any hints there? And he said he believes those images in Discord were very close to the truth. Not exactly sure which images he was talking about. I mean, a lot of stuff had been posted. Also, I think we first saw this pop up around the 6th or something of October. So whenever we would have been posting the images about this would have been kind of a bit ago from when he answered this particular question, which I think I asked him on that same day then. But yeah, as you can see, that's the image down below. I myself and a couple other people kind of really believe it's probably box art for something. It kind of looks like something that would have been in the second arc of sets for Nexo Knights when they were fighting against the stone gargoyle army type stuff. It has that sort of bluer color, and I think you have some purple lightning stuff going on. Nothing exactly matched this that I could find. I mean, maybe you rotate it or something, but this doesn't to me look like anything actually on a Lego thing. This really looks like set box art type of stuff, the background, other things to add in, which honestly they look kind of cool, but there's not really actually anything in there. But I mean, hey, it could be that. I mean, it might be from the set that Ruina's actually from, because she is from that sort of wave, so that's the aesthetic and colors of that, which might even be wave 2, or wave 3 or 4 of Nexo Knights, I believe, because I think you had 2 waves for the first arc with the Book of the Monsters. So yeah, apparently we were very close with that. I don't know. I mean, people post a bunch of pictures of Ruina's set, so I'm not sure. Maybe that's one where a 4th fig might be from. I don't know. But that would be a little bit weird. I'll get to that a little bit more later. For other news, we have who's probably going to be our 3rd fig in this brick pace, or this update, will be Jestro. This is Jestro. This is Jestro's design from the first arc, and I think he had 2 sets, maybe. I think it was just 2 sets he came in. If anybody watched my shed sort of tour speculation video, I think I actually showed off this exact figure. I have this and the one used in the second story arc, but that actually wasn't Jestro. Basic lore is I think he got possessed by an evil spear that turned him into this, I don't know, almost zombie looking creature. But then he got unpossessed eventually. The spirit came out as a cloud, zapped a whole bunch of statues, brought them to life to make the army for the second story arc. But then I think it also made a clone of him that looked really evil, almost like a face that Garmadon would kind of have. I mean, kind of stood out as very different, but that was more, I think, black and dark blue colors. So this is more specifically the first sort of arc of Jestro. And he's also holding the Book of the Monsters, which is where most of the enemies, at least I believe for the first arc, came from, the fire creatures. I mean, honestly, a lot of the stuff was kind of demons, but there was some creatures made of literal fire, some snake creatures, some red goblins, orc type things, the actual goblins, which were little balls that had faces on them, because you had living balls, tiles, all these other kind of things. It was very creative what they did with it, but I believe that is where all the creatures came from, which also makes me think he will probably have that in the game then, if they're showing off his Jester staff thing, and also him holding the Book of Monsters. He's probably going to be doing something with that. I don't know, I'm thinking maybe it could even be like a yellow buff sort of thing where maybe they use that and it summons in more monsters that kind of power them. Like, you don't actually have more monsters, but it's kind of like, best way I think of it is like Fire Emblem. At least Fire Emblem 3 houses, how you could have like one, most of the times you had the unit, but you could give them, I forgot what the actual term was, but like squads that would also supposed to be like fighting with them, but basically just kind of increase the power. I'm thinking maybe it's something like that. I mean, it could even be, I don't know, Revive or something else. But I'm thinking maybe it could be something that, I mean, I feel like having the Book of Monsters means he's probably going to use the Book of Monsters for an attack. Honestly, those goblins would probably be a solid one. I mean, they're just basically balls, those little orb sphere things you put on the end of axles with some sudden sets. It's that with a texture on it. So it has a little bit of a flat part at the bottom so you can actually set them up. Really cool pieces. I feel like that would be a very easy one to add into the game because you really wouldn't have to animate anything besides the face. I mean, I guess they're moving. We don't actually have moving parts. They'll just be like bouncing along the ground, kind of. So maybe something there. Something else I wanted to show off. These were something I found online. Because I had one, I think I actually showed it off in the Shed Tour video. I don't remember if I had any more Book of Monsters. I think I had at least 2 or 3. I think I do remember some of these other prints. But basically you opened up like some of the Lego books. Maybe the other Lego books really did this. I can't remember off the top of my head. But you had like a little tile on the inside with something. And each one I think had like a little bit of a different print. And these were some of the monsters that would come out of it. It's supposed to be like you'd open up the book and like summon the monsters sort of out of it from inside of the book. To give you kind of an idea of some of the stuff that he did summon throughout the series. I mean, most of these are pretty much fire, lava sort of dudes, it looks like, or like red demon sort of things. I mean, one of them, the third at the top, is actually just a dude made of fire. That's one that I had in the Shed video I opened up. That's the one, the print I had inside of mine. So it gives you an idea of what other stuff might be. Also, I mean, could this guy be tagged as fire? I mean, I feel like a lot of the stuff from Wave 1 was very fire related, but maybe not him in particular. So, moving on. I did ask him if it was going to be a new event or an updated version of Malicious Malice. Lots of people had that question last time, and I did hear back from him. I believe it was like the day afterwards. I put up the video, but his only response was previous getting updated. He didn't tell me which one it was. I feel like Malicious Malice makes the most sense, saying that the rewards at the end of this login thing is 15 tiles of Fright Night. So far we have gotten 5 tiles of Lionel, Royce, Fright Night, and I believe Lionel again. So like, could it even be Alumni Days and they're giving us the tiles to go ahead and further kind of get along with some of those characters? I mean, because they do have like cheaper unlock costs, like to help us be able to get onto the new stuff a little bit quicker. I feel like it'd be weird to update those 2 back to back, but I mean, I guess nothing's saying they can't really do that. But the confirmation, it is not going to be a new event. It is a previous one getting updated. I mean, I guess he could always be wrong too, but I feel like him saying it's a previous one getting updated means it's not going to be an old one. Oh, sorry. It's not going to be a new one. It's going to be an old one, but no confirmation on which old one's getting updated. Now, I did get the kit today of Monster Butler. He just kind of handed this to me. I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll go ahead and make another video on this. I thought we'd be waiting at least maybe next week, but sure, go and take this. I feel like we might get the full update sort of stuff next Tuesday. Well, I will get the stuff to make a video on probably Tuesday, or maybe it might be Monday. If we're going to have the event drop Friday, which seems kind of likely, the 28th would kind of make sense. But today he is handing me the kit for Monster Butler. We had his 3 icons of him last time, so it seemed very likely that he was coming, though it's also a little bit weird with us getting, it looks like 2 Nexo Knights characters. They've mixed him in here. But hey, I thought maybe he could even been with some. I think Maria had said something like test images. Not saying that I believe all of them were going to be test images But I thought it was weird we had one Nexo, or it's like, I guess kind of that point, or now, two Nexo Knights characters getting teased in app images, one of them which is confirmed, and getting a Monster Fighter character. To me, that's just kind of a little weird, very unconnected. So I thought, well, maybe he could be something later, or somebody they thought about doing but decided not to do. But he has been confirmed to me by them. I do have the kit and everything for him, so yes, he is in fact coming. We know Ruiner, and we know Monster Butler. Jestro is likely, but has not been confirmed to me yet by the devs. So, I mean, you probably can expect him to kind of come. I think he's also like the more important character, so it might be more like in the brick pace fig. I would think he's kind of, I would say it would be like the Malak of his sort of theme, so it would make sense to me. But here we have the Monster Butler. Weirdly, it's the Butler version and not just the generic monster. People know Frankenstein, but Frankenstein's monster, technically the person who created him was Frankenstein. But yeah, we're getting this one, which came from a really nice set. I showed it off in my Shed collection. It's just a really good display piece. But he comes from the 2,000 plus piece set for Monster Fighters, which is kind of a weird release. You don't normally get these nice display sets from like Lego's one-off sort of action themes, but this one came with one, and it was a giant haunted house. Just had some villains. It had, I think, 2 ghosts, Lord Vampire, the Vampire's Bride, her name was, the Monster Butler, and Zombie Chef. So kind of surprised this one's coming. Kind of very like lowly henchman type person too. Maybe not the most obscure set, but one of maybe a lot of people might not would have gotten. I mean, I don't know. Versus, I think the set that the Monster and Mad Scientist came in was like $30 to $50. I'm kind of surprised it didn't go with that one. Also, it's a little bit more recognizable, just the more generic Frankenstein monster. But they went with the Butler one. I do honestly like the print. But yeah, this is the set he is from if anybody is interested. I forgot to do that for Ruiner. I felt bad at doing it later, not having this picture of the set that they came in, especially if they only came in one set. I'll try to maybe do that for some of the future ones, unless it's been like an 8 sets or whatever. But this was definitely a special one, so I did want to show this one off and what he was in fact from. I mean, I can't say it enough. That was just a really cool set. I really like how they did that one. But this does also make me curious. Are we getting maybe somebody else from this set? I mean, would we maybe have Lord Vampire? Maybe he's working with him, or we just get one of the other, like the Mummy, Swamp Creature, the Zombie Chef. I don't know. Such a weird choice, but kind of a cool one. So without further ado, let's get on into the actual kit. We have the basic Guest Care. Deals 110% damage to target foe and has a 100% chance to copy one random buff from the target foe to himself, prioritizing damage, block, and payback. So what stops Chili from dying? What stops people from dying when you have Chili? Well, the enemy has Chili. Also payback's also a pretty nice one. Then that would also trigger this basic again, so you steal even more stuff when he has payback. If Butler has 3+ buffs, he has a 50% chance to decrease cooldown on Dinner is Served by 1. Which I feel like with the stuff I have read about the rest of his kit seems very likely that he will probably have 3+ buffs at all times. Or at least like a round or 2 into the battle. I do also want to mention, he did not say this when he handed this to me, but I want to mention that maybe these kits could be subject to change. It also, this PDF came with this kit again for Ruiner as well, and when I looked over it, it looked to be the same kit for her. Nothing had changed, but since that one is maybe subject to change, I want to mention that this one could be as well. I don't know if it is, but I just want to throw that out there because he didn't mention it this time. But I feel like if the first time it was a possibility, it could still be a chance for this one too. Next up, we have his first special, also his only special, interestingly enough, Dinner is Served, which I'm curious what the cooldown is going to be because there's a couple other places that mention reducing cooldown for it. Monster Butler gains 1 random buff for 2 times. honestly sounds like a thing from like the base game. Not too much there. Deals 100% damage to target foe, plus 5% bonus damage for each buff on Monster Butler. So it's a little bit better here. It deals 30% damage to all other foes. He gives himself this. You can reduce cooldown on it pretty often. You might be throwing this out there, trying to get more buffs. You're copying a buff from somebody, which I do want to mention that again. It said copy, not removes and then gives you or steals. I don't remember what the wording is for like Magisto's basic, but I believe it says it steals that one. This one, it just copies. So it's not a complete counter to Chili, but it still works pretty good. And then it buffs him up for using this ability. Also, by the wording of this, it sounds like he gains the random buff before he attacks. So you should, I guess, unless you have buff immunity, do 105% damage every time you use this ability. And then, but it does say for each buff on him and 30% damage to everybody else. So sadly, that doesn't increase, but it's still pretty solid damage, assuming he has good damage. All foes are inflicted with Dizzy for 2 turns and Dodge Down 2 for 2 turns. Dizzy, I mean, it is strong. I don't want to say it's basic, but Dizzy almost feels basic at this point. So many people deal Dizzy, and this is just another foe that will in fact deal Dizzy as well. Dodge Down 2 is kind of interesting because I do find there's lots of characters just dodge a lot more than it feels like they should kind of be doing. But this will make them be a little bit less dodgy. So maybe some other uses here. I mean, I'm not going to say no to having the enemies dodge my attacks a little bit less. Now moving on to his passive. He only has one ability. Kind of interesting. I guess that means he's a little bit like the Scully of this team. We have Spooky Service. At the start of Monster Butler's turn, one random hero gains accuracy up 2, or speed up 2, or dodge up 2 for 2 turns. So a little bit basic. Accuracy kind of nice. It makes you hit a little bit better. It's better buffs. Speed up, honestly, probably the best one. I think maybe of these. And dodge up I guess is also good, but you still have to have it actually like trigger. So the speed, you should be getting that almost all the time, I guess, unless you maybe have Dizzy. I think Dizzy kind of counteracts it. Whenever a spooky hero attacks, Monster Butler has a 50% chance to assist for 50% damage, which will do his basic, which has a chance of lowering the cooldown on Dinner is Served, and will copy another buff onto him, assuming the enemy has buffs, but like who actually attacks the enemy nowadays that doesn't have buffs? So he's just getting even more buffs, and he's doing some damage. So you would be probably using him on a spooky team, or want to use him with some spooky characters. But yeah, I don't know, not like the most crazy basic. The assist is kind of nice, especially with his basic. But he just gives some people some buffs. I kind of feel like that means he's probably going to be a support big too. I mean, he's a butler too, so that kind of makes sense. Passive 2, Urang. Whenever Monster Butler gains any buff, he has a 25% chance to gain Prepared for 2 turns. So whenever he gains a buff, he has a chance to gain another buff, which, I mean, I technically might could trigger this again, I guess, but I don't think you can actually gain technically multiple stacks of Prepared, so I don't think it actually will do anything. But this gives him another buff, so hey, if he uses his basic, he might always get Prepared. That'll be really good if you give him Taunt, or whenever he has like his payback, if he steals it from somebody, he'll be having a good chance to get Prepared every time he pays back, which would be kind of nice. And he has it for 2 turns. Whenever Monster Butler gains damage block, so what he prioritizes stealing with his basic, which is interesting. I think that's the first time they've ever mentioned something prioritizing stealing a certain buff or copying it. Damage block decreases cooldown on Dinner is Served by 1. So whenever you use this whenever you attack like a team with Chili on it, to copy damage block, which is also a pretty nice thing just to copy over anyways. Doesn't, I guess, help out the most because it doesn't actually remove it from them, but it's kind of interesting. But Dinner's cooldown is reduced by 1, which is already a chance to do that on his basic, so this is his second chance to do that. He has a chance to actually decrease the cooldown by 2 whenever he uses his basic. Because it says whenever Monster Butler gains damage block, he for sure decreases it by 1. So this is always going to happen, which is kind of nice. And Payback, whenever he gains that, he will heal all heroes for 15% of his max health, which that kind of depends on how, I guess, good his max health is, but I'm not going to say no to a 15% heal. I guess you do have some, if he's a glass cannon, that's really not going to be that good, but like, I'm assuming if he's support, like, it's still going to be, probably have a decent enough health support that, hey, that's not going to be like that low of a heal. I probably won't say no to it anyways. So that's pretty nice, especially if when he has Payback, he will be copying other buffs. So there's a chance he might copy other stacks of Payback to continue healing that. Because I guess too, he won't be removing these. But if he attacks like the enemy, let's say if Santa uses his ult, every time he would attack them, let's say if he's stealing Payback, because I guess say they don't have damage block, if they have Payback, he will prioritize copying it, giving himself Payback again, and healing the whole team for 15% of his health. Which is kind of nice. I guess that's the thing there, and maybe that's the same idea behind not removing damage block from the enemy, is because then it will decrease the cooldown even more on Dinner is subbed, although I don't know if Dinner is subbed is going to be that good. I guess it depends how well he can rack up buffs and what his attack is kind of like. So, maybe you get up to 150%, but I have to have, I guess, like 10 separate buffs, 10 different types of buffs. I'm not sure of how it's with how it's worded there. That kind of strong, maybe? I don't know. I think I would still rather just remove damage block from the enemy, but this is an interesting way to do it if when he copies these abilities specifically, because he won't be removing them, so there's a chance he might could hit them again, or if they attack him, he will pay back and then hit them to get it again. He does this also if another spooky character attacks, he has a good chance to assist, to copy one of these again, to decrease cooldown, or heal. So, that's kind of nice, I think. I don't know. I have to see how it all works in general. Also, here is the full kit of this. Like, there's some interesting stuff going on here. It feels decently basic to me, though. Like, it still feels not exactly game-changing, though I do like they actually mention something prioritizes stealing certain buffs. That is something new. And I'm not going to say no to it. But with how crazy some recent kits have been, I'm surprised that this one isn't so crazy. It's not very long. It's fairly straightforward, I would say. I guess we even don't know what his attack is going to kind of be like. And I guess it depends also, too, what you're going to do for the rest of the team to depend on how good it's going to be here. But there's some fairly straightforward stuff going on here. There's some additions of not exactly new abilities, but I do kind of like having it prioritize taking certain buffs. Because if you had something where it was maybe only cleansing like 1 or 2 buffs from an enemy, if you could say like, well, I want it to prioritize, if they have taunt, it will remove taunt first, it will prioritize that. That's kind of neat. I think there's some stuff you can do there to make certain teams counter certain teams better and not just make them a great all-around thing, or make them just like oppressive in the meta. They'll be a little bit more limited with what they counter, but I think that overall is going to be pretty good. I I think he's still going to be fairly decent. Use him against the new collectibles. Might have some good use with Ruiner. I think we also kind of really want to see the tags. I was thinking this guy was probably still going to be techie, but there's not much techie stuff going on here. Though I feel like Frankenstein's monster is about almost as techie as you can get with it being brought back to life by lightning. Maybe not techie, but like old school techie. Sci-fi of that time, I guess still even kind of nowadays a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, seems decent. I would love to hear some theory crafting on like teams to use him with what we know. So if you have any of that stuff, hit me up. Was going to do one about Ruiner and theory craft some teams with her, but I was going to be doing that if we didn't get any more kits. And now we got more kits, I might try to redo the theory crafting, especially now we know like these figs will probably work somewhat together, or whatever team-ish they're releasing now will probably go fairly well together. So I kind of want to wait, I guess, till we get a little bit more stuff, because just having one at a time, the theory crafting change we hear more about the other figs you're getting. Though I mean, I think this will also be kind of interesting theory craft just with this one as well. But just to go back over again, this is Ruiner's kit. This is in the new PDF he sent me, which had Monster Butler's kit in it. I looked over it, it looked the same to me, but I wanted to include this just in case any changes had been made, or if anybody notices any numbers being a little bit different. I did not, but here is her kit if you want to pause and look over that right quick. But yeah, that's kind of it. Like I said, I was maybe going to do that video about different possible team comps you could use with Ruiner, and I might go back and do that at some point again later. But now that we got some like bigger news, and we got another new character who you could use with her or not use with her or whatever, I feel like this also opens up the door to a little bit more theory crafting. But yeah, I might come back to that at some point in the future. I don't know. Kind of feel like we might be getting the full sort of patch notes Tuesday, which I might take a little bit of time off to do a couple other things before then, so I might not actually make that video before the stuff comes out. So sorry for the people who sent me some different theory crafted teams with that, but hopefully this will be something else you can maybe theory craft a little bit with. Because definitely hit me up if you have any ideas for teams to use this guy with. Do you think he works well with Ruiner or not with Ruiner? Because I don't see exactly any direct synergies, but there's some stuff that Ruiner does a lot more so. That's anti-new collectibles. But he also has some stuff that feels like it kind of targets them a little bit more, with the stuff directly calling out damage immunity and also calling out payback. So that's another thing to also include in there with Santa's Ultimate. So there's some stuff there. I also think it's interesting that both him and Ruiner have payback, but it doesn't look like there's a way to give them taunt yet. Maybe somebody comes out that can give taunt to people like Buddhists could, because it seems like some of these people could honestly maybe use it. And I think that's really it that I have for this. I will probably be doing a stream right after this. I'll probably put this up as another premiere, and I'll probably be hanging out in chat, and we'll be hopping into a stream as soon as this finishes playing. So if you want to hang out and talk a little bit more about some of that stuff, feel free to pop on over into that. That should come up like a couple seconds after this finishes. But the only two other things is kind of a little bit unrelated to this. Sorry, one of them is very related. I just simply asked them if there's like any way I might get like a special account or something to like test these things like before they release, to like test like each fig out individually, maybe put them with a couple different teams and just kind of see. They said they would honestly like to do that. They just don't have the resources at the time to either make it or to finish making it, because that was on their plans at one point. So I don't know how far along they got with it, and I guess it kind of seems like I'm the only active content creator right now, so I guess it's not much of a reason just to make that for me. But maybe in the near future, I don't know. I mean, I guess if the game picks up steam, they might go back and make some of those other things. But so it was a note to that, and I also mentioned like would it be possible for me to maybe make some new teams like it's taking Expedition, so we have something else interesting to fight, like some of the lesser teams that aren't exactly hard but might be a little bit of a challenge. Like there's somebody in my tournament thing, I feel like this might be a bot now, but it's like all tanks basically, and like a healer or a reviver. There's been a couple different variations of it, but I think it's been like Alan, Aurora, I think maybe now Santa, Scarlet, Ghost. I think he had like Lloyd in there a couple times. And it's just been kind of interesting to fight that because it's been a little bit different. Been kind of a little bit of a challenge. I mean, it's not much of a challenge, but some of those have been like interesting stall teams that aren't good but can be maybe hard to beat. Might be kind of fun to have some different things like that in Expedition, some stuff. Maybe some teams with some of the newer characters in it too. Might be fun to have a team that has gold on it, but like other lesser minifigures too, like maybe a gold city only team. But they said they have plans to do some new nodes. It's just not, I believe the term was worth it right now, or it sounded almost like basically saying they're not going to make any money off of that right now, so they can't prioritize doing it since it won't make them money. I mean, releasing new figs does get them money, so I can see why you might would want to prioritize that. So sadly it was a no to that, because I would honestly like to have a couple more interesting teams fight in Expedition. I don't particularly mind playing through Expedition, but I run into the majority of the same teams over and over again. Plus a little bit of mix-ups when it comes to like some of the arena team nodes. But some of those are still kind of like, what it is, I guess lots of pirates because newer shards. Classic space because classic space. Maybe a little bit of variation every now and then. And sometimes I might run into one of the anti-classic space sort of teams, and sometimes new collectibles, but I haven't actually met them that often. I don't know what it pulls from. Maybe it's just shard you're in. I don't know. But I would really like to have different things to fight in there, so I'm hoping I can do that at some point. And I might even try to make some and like pass it along. I don't know how long it takes to add that into like the system. But I think that would still be kind of fun though. I mean, honestly, I'd really like to have that test server, or just even like give me one of your like admin accounts, let me borrow it for a bit, let me hop in there and like use some of this new stuff a couple days before it comes out. That would be, I think, honestly pretty fun. But yeah, that's really it for this news video. Let me know what you're looking forward to the most. You think Jestro's coming to something? I think it's also pretty likely. You looking forward to him? Which of these three figs would you be most interested in right now? What sort of Theorycraft teams do you have for this new edition after Ruiner? Like, you think Monster Butler will work good with her? Will you still want to run some of those Santa, Andreas / Gold, Fright Night, Lego House sets? Or do you think it might be something else now? Also, what's your thoughts about Bob Sculpkin coming to the game? Because that's going to be really fun. So until next time, Cole Ripley signing off. Goodbye, have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in a future video, and I guess honestly the stream right after this. Bye-bye.